Hello, and welcome to the Lightworker Diaries, a space for reflection, truth-telling, and soulful remembering. My name is Tiffany, and I am a truth teller, a mystic, and a mirror. These are transmissions from my heart to yours, an archive of channeled wisdom, lived stories, and the real work of becoming. May something in here stir something in you. Hello, my friend. It has been a week. Not sure if you're feeling it. Everyone who I have spoken with, I don't know if it was the new moon, the solstice, the life be lifing, but things have shifted. And I want to just walk with you through that journey because something came up for me this week, something that I've done once before in my life that completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I had another moment just like that on Friday. So if you are in that space where you're like, what the heck? I want to share my experience because I think it's beneficial. And it also comes with a warning because when you do what I did, life changes, things change. And so I'll share more about that as we kind of walk through what I've experienced over the last few days. But just know that there's a mental preparation that comes with this. So, as you know, back in October, November timeframe, the company that I was working for was acquired, and I chose not to go with that company. I knew in my heart at that point in time there was something else meant for me. I also felt very strongly that it was becoming a writer. And so that's where I started telling everybody, I'm becoming a writer. And I started thinking about how to grow my audience. And the interesting thing that happened is the moment that I put effort into engaging an audience, everything went silent. And I couldn't figure out why the harder I tried, the fewer results that I got. And then as I shared in a previous episode, I was looking at my Substack year in review. And around the time that I decided I was going to become a writer, my engagement completely dropped off. And I got curious about it. I asked myself, what shifted other than this declaration that that's what I was going to become? And in that moment, I realized that I had been outsourcing my writing. So my previous process had been that I would write the first draft. I was using ChatGPT as my editor. I had flipped that. So I would speak into my ChatGPT. It had a fairly descriptive prompt that basically would take my story, create a narrative arc, and write it in my tone, voice, and whatnot. And I had questions in there for, tell me where the blank spots are, tell me where the missing pieces are, ask me questions to fully develop the story. Like it was a co-creative experience, and I really enjoyed it. But I realized also around that same time that there was an aliveness in me to start a podcast. So I started this Lightworker Diaries podcast. And this has brought me so much joy. I love, in a way that I never expected, creating these audio recordings. I love them. In fact, I started doing a daily one because I was so into it. I just loved it so much. So this suddenly had energy. This suddenly had aliveness. And I decided to take a step back from writing and focus only on the audios, on the spoken storytelling. And again, there was something that wasn't clicking into place. The promise I had made myself to follow what's alive, every little offer I put out wasn't gaining any traction. And I was like going back through with curiosity, okay, what are my maybe hidden agendas here? What promises have I made to myself? And I realized in speaking with a friend of mine that at one point when my career job was winding down, I had this very brief wish of like, what if I were to take time off through the end of the year? What if I just let myself do what I loved and coast through the end of the year? And I knew that I had the resources to do that. And when my job officially wound down, I said I was going to give myself a couple weeks. But I think that underlying real desire to take a substantial period of time off, a sabbatical, I think that was what my heart really wanted. And so as I was getting a little frustrated because I felt like I wasn't getting traction, I was like, okay, this is okay though, because I know I'm fine from a financial perspective. I know there's plenty of time. I also know that I've done the identity work that when my soul is ready to be on, it'll be on and it'll come together. And as the end of the year is approaching and I'm starting to set up my payments for my January bills and all of that, and I'm starting to see my little cash cushion getting thinner, my logical mind is getting really loud and really mean, to be honest. And so I decided, I was like, okay, here's the deal. I've done this before. I have left the corporate world. I have stepped into entrepreneurship. I have done it the logical way and I've burned myself out. The last time that I was in an entrepreneurial journey, there came a point where I said, I surrender. I give up. I release my personal agenda. I release the ego's desires to chase this thing. Here's my list of things that I really desire. And they were not specific. They were more a feeling. Like, I want to work with people I love. I want to wear clothes that I love and have them feel accepted. I want to be in a place where my voice matters, where the work I'm doing is having meaning. So it was a lot broader, like how I wanted to feel. I wanted to be a remote worker. I wanted to have space. I wanted to have freedom. I wanted to have flexibility. The job that I called in right after that, within 2 weeks, I was starting, met everything on that list. And I was like, interesting. The moment I surrendered, the universe delivered my list. Interesting. And then I went back to being human for 4 years, working in a very logical leadership role. And then again, that heart whisper came on and said, it's time to do something else. And I followed it. And I thought I had an idea of what this next chapter was going to look like. It was a little foggy, but I had just this will be fun kind of sensation, a very familiar sensation. And I trust my intuition, even when my mind is like, I don't think we should. I do. Like I said, as this cash cushion was getting thinner, I realized that I could continue to muscle my way through and try to make something happen, or I could let my higher self show me what I'd already committed to. And so after some tension and frustration and annoyance had built up to the point that I was like, yeah, I'm familiar with this. This is the road to burnout. I'm just going to let this go. I sat down one morning, Friday morning, actually. I let all my frustration out. I poured the energy of it into the fire that was in our wood stove. I did a big, emotional clearing, energetic clearing. And then I said out loud, Source, higher self, I surrender. Show me how you want me to serve. And I also, because I can be a bit dense sometimes, I said, show me, tell me, make it unmistakably obvious. Nothing like getting a clear sign, right? I sat for a moment. I didn't hear anything. I didn't feel anything. Nothing came up. And so I proceeded to get ready for my day. And I got in my car and I went for a drive. I drove to a coffee shop. It was one that's about 45 minutes away. When I'm driving, I get a lot of downloads. I get a lot of clarity. I don't know if it's the speed that I'm moving at, the fact that my conscious brain is trying to keep me safe driving, and my subconscious can open to receive. It's probably a combination of all of the things. But I receive a lot of information when I'm in motion. And so I'm driving, and all of a sudden, this idea lands. And it is this stream, like a download of a movie. And I'm watching it in my mind's eye. And it is so crystal clear, I can see the entire thing. And I'm thinking to myself, are you serious? You got to be joking. And so I'm still listening. I'm still curious. I'm still seeing this play out. This is actually something I had created once before, coming back. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I can do that again. And I'm hesitant to tell you exactly what the idea is because it's still downloading. And this is another part of the story. So bear with me on the vagueness of what the detail is. But it was just so clear. All of the pieces of this business, I could see it like I was watching a movie screen. It was that clear. The things that I had been doing over the last 2 to 3 months did not have that clarity. There was a fog. I could feel the aliveness, the enjoyment, the fun of it. It was exciting to do it, but there wasn't a clarity of imagery like I was receiving. And so I got to my coffee shop, I sat down and I started writing. I jumped into ChatGPT and I was like, you got to help me process this. I can't believe that this is the ask. And also, I mean, it feels really true. Just help me work through this. And so it was giving me questions to navigate, helping to be a good thought partner. And as I was driving home, I jumped on Marco Polo with a really dear friend of mine. I'm a self-projected projector. So what that means is my authority works when I speak. I can hear it in my voice, what is for me and what is not for me. So one of the greatest gifts that this friend gives me is a space where I can speak. She's also highly intuitive, highly spiritual, so I can say all the weird and woo things. And she's like, yeah, okay, without thinking that I'm strange. It's amazing. So I'm driving down the road. I've got Marco Polo pulled up and I'm just talking. I'm driving, I'm paying attention, and I'm just talking. Within like seconds of getting on the highway, I'm like, oh, there's a hawk. And then on the next, like 2 posts down, there's another hawk. And then I'm driving a little bit further and I drive by this truck and it has a huge eagle on the side. An eagle is a guide for me, one that shows up very frequently and it holds a very special place in my heart. So I'm like, oh, and there's an eagle. And that truck also has angel numbers on it. Angel numbers that to me mean abundance and innocence, which is my motivation in human design. So it is my alignment. Like that is me moving in alignment. That number showed up. And then I'm driving a little bit further and I see a bald eagle flying overhead. And now I'm like, okay, at least 5 signs deep into this confirmation. There's an energy within me that is excited and alive and looking forward to actually creating this thing that my previous original was like, no, we don't want to do that. But there was excitement there. And so I was like, okay. So drive the rest of the way home. I end up telling my partner, Dave, that I had this idea. He's also excited. It's like everything is falling into place. But at the same time, there's this part of me that was like, but I thought my soul's mission was going to be so much cooler. I thought my soul's mission was going to be really fun. I thought it was going to be something super magical and really make a difference in this world. And with that, I got the clarity on how it is. It's in who I serve. And, I was open, but also kind of grieving this idea of what I thought I wanted my soul mission to look like, what I wanted my legacy to look like. Because when I looked back down my timeline, I could see how everything was preparing me for exactly what was coming. I could see it all perfectly. And so I let it settle. I let it simmer. I let the information continue to download into my consciousness. On Saturday, just continued receiving, taking notes, letting things kind of land. Sunday morning, still waking up early because there's so much information coming in, taking lots of notes. And then Dave and I have a conversation about it that shakes me. Something about the questions that he was asking just kept triggering me. And I had to get curious about that. So I was doing lots of trigger clearing on Sunday, and I got real quiet because I needed to figure out what was the real root underneath all of it that was continuing to get just zapped. And it was really interesting because what I was realizing is my vision wasn't fully formed. And because it wasn't fully formed, sharing it before it was ready was putting it at risk of, I'm going to call it attack, but at risk of someone poking holes in something that wasn't even ready to be tested yet. I was realizing like this idea is still a seed in the palm of my hand, and I need to give it time to receive its wholeness before I start sharing it with the world. And this is something that I'm not, historically, I have not been good at. I'm an idea and go person. Idea, go, idea, go. I'm fast acting. That's just how I have been. It feels good for me to be in motion. The idea of sitting in stillness and waiting has been painful in the past. And the beauty of the holiday season right now, I don't have to launch anything until the new year. I don't have to prepare anything. I don't have to sell anything. I don't have to create anything. I can be in the receiving of this idea and let it fully land, fully form, so that I have so much clarity and conviction around it that it doesn't matter what anyone else says. I can just deliver the answers rather than defending something that I don't even fully understand yet myself. You might need to re-listen to that if you're a fast action person like me. The reason I'm not telling you the idea this week is because the idea is still evolving. I went to a sound bath last night for the solstice. I was still kind of in this angst and grief and frustration and annoyance of the day. Like I was still doing a lot of emotional regulation. And as I laid down in the sound bath, I just said, again, I surrender. Show me the way. And the stream of downloads continued. And suddenly I could see the two pieces that I couldn't understand before and how they work together and how it's a perfect fit for both my energy and Dave's, who is a generator, who loves the details, who loves execution, who loves people, how our energies work together in a very beautiful and harmonious way, and how I can present this in a way that attracts the people that it will be most resonant for and most fun for me, which is important for me to do this because otherwise I don't want to do this. I'm very particular about who I work with and who I don't, and that makes a difference for me as to whether or not I want to be in a container with someone. I'm continuing to get more details and more information. This is the slowest I have ever moved, and it is uncomfortable. It is very uncomfortable. Historically, I would have had this done and out already because I would need to get proof of concept. I would need to get some understanding of it. Is this going to work? But I've done so much identity work, nervous system regulation, trust and abundance and safety work that I'm okay letting this idea fully land before I ask it to do anything. There's a level of trust and a knowing that this is going to be successful, that if it shows up in its totality in 6 weeks, that's still okay. The little bit of stretch that my nervous system needs to take between now and then to hold the vision and stay in the frequency of its success is worth it. And so I share this story with you because if you feel like you're banging your head against the wall, if the things you thought should be working aren't working, if you know in your heart that you're here to do something big, and yet the pieces aren't coming together, I'm going to invite you to surrender. There may be a path that's waiting for you that you're not looking at, that you're avoiding because you've labeled it or judged it as something you don't want to do. But maybe because you've labeled it and judged it, you're not seeing the true potential of it and how it could be the perfect path for you. What I'm embarking on, I have said explicitly, I don't want to do this. But the difference is, I am creating something that will change the industry, and I don't have to do the parts that I don't want to do. Dave has already said he'll do that part. And then we'll hire people. So we'll build out a team to support the vision. I get to stay in the part that I love and do really, really well and be supported by a team who will take care of and love the parts that they do really, really well. I was thinking that I had to be this solo entrepreneur, figuring out all the pieces, maybe hiring an EA at some point. My vision's way bigger than that. The vision that chose me, the work that Source has planted within me, is bigger than that. I've been playing too small. I've been thinking too small. And I have been denied certain needs because they need me to stretch to create something that will be life-changing for a lot of people. So again, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling confused, if you're feeling frustrated, do what you need to do to emotionally and energetically return to neutral. Go for a walk. There's plenty of information out there about nervous system regulation. I'm not going to go into the details here. You could probably jump on YouTube and look for nervous system regulation techniques and have one done in like 2 minutes. Go find something that gives your system a reset. And then, as I said at the beginning, this will change your life. So be ready when you ask the question. Source, higher self, future self, God of your knowing, how would you have me serve? What would you have me do? And then just listen. My information did not come in the moment that I asked the question. It came about an hour and a half later, and it's still coming 4 days later. When you ask the question, don't freak out if you don't have this immediate knowing of what comes next. All you're required to do is ask the question and then be open to receiving. What is meant for you will come through so clearly. Your direction will come through so clearly. And you can do like I did and say, make it unmistakable. It will. But be open to receiving. And know that you might get something that you initially think, not that. And then you're going to have to do the inner work around understanding why that, because there's something in it for you. I've said this before, and I will say it again and again and again. Everything is happening for you. Everything in this world is working in your favor. You are supported. You are held. And sometimes our minds craft stories that we believe to be true, and they might not be. Drop the stories. See what's underneath. Let yourself be surprised and follow the aliveness and the excitement and just see where it leads. You can always go back to the old way of being. If it doesn't work out, you can. You always have a choice. But wouldn't it be fun if the path was fun? If the path was alive? If the path was easy? And I hesitate after I say easy because I'm like, it's not really ever easy, but it's more natural. And you have this desire to do certain things, even when they're challenging, when they're aligned with who you are and what you came here to do. And so a big part of it is just trusting. It's trusting your intuition. It's trusting where you're led. this idea that I have, the questions that were asked, when I started to shut down and strip out the parts that made it me, I didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, that was boring. If I'm going to do that, I'm just going to go get a job. And the interesting thing was, I allowed myself to be heard in having that moment. And Dave met me there and he's like, just asking questions, just trying to understand. And I was like, I know, it's too soon. I'm realizing right now it's too soon. I'll come back. Let me just keep working on this thing. And thank you for showing me that this is what I need. I appreciate that. I feel like I should have a closing thought. And maybe I do. But the reality is, I just hope that you continue to be true to yourself and do what you love. Thank you for listening to the Lightworker Diaries. If something stirred in you today, take a breath and let it land. To go deeper, you can subscribe to the written diaries on Substack. You'll find a link in the show notes. Until next time, be true to you.